The FedLife podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a fiduciary, fee-based financial planning firm serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve.
Welcome to this episode of the New Look FedLife podcast. You've already seen one episode of it. We're sticking with it. So you get to see Ed's and my smiling faces throughout all of these. I'm your host, Dan Sipe, additional to the branch manager here at Serving Those Who Serve and Lee Sipe and Associates. And I will begin, as I always do, by saying thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Thank you for your service to the government, to the country, to me, to everyone. You are the glue that holds everything together. You don't hear it enough. You're always going to hear it here. The other thing that you will always hear on this podcast is the guru, Ed Zerndorfer. He is back with us once again as part of that ongoing mission to reach, teach, and serve you. Now, at the outside, I need to say the opinions of our guest, Ed Zerndorfer, no matter how awesome they are not the opinions of Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. This podcast is presented for information only and is not meant to be taken as advice. All listeners, I mean you, should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. And if you don't have a personal advisor, hit us up at Serving Those Who Serve, stwserve.com. We will help you any way we can. So for today, we got a little bit of a mixed bag, but nevertheless, I think is pretty important. We're going to cover a big change, at least I think it is, to TSP catch-up contribution rules, and then round out with a pretty cool update to the rules regarding early TSP withdrawals for public safety employees. So, Ed, let's jump in. And Ed, you gave me a new word. Okay, I'm using it, baby. You gave me a new word, Roth-ification. So yes. This comes from the SCURE 2.0 Act, Ed. So give folks a little bit of background on that, and then we'll jump into this Roth-ification.
Yes, Dan. Yeah, the Roth-ification is here to stay, as I say. Back in December, last December 2022, Congress passed SECURE Act 2.0. Actually, SECURE Act 1.0 was passed back in December 2019, 3 years earlier. It took Congress a couple more years to put some updates, add some new things to the original SECURE Act to help, but they put a lot of new things into SECURE Act 2.0, and we're going to be talking about two of them today. And the first major change, the first one we're going to be talking about is that starting in 2024, because a lot of the provisions of SECURE Act 2.0 they're not all of them, they're taking effect immediately. We had a few this year, but this one is taking effect as of January 1st, 2024, and that provision is that starting next year, the catch-up contributions that federal employees can make to the Thrift Savings Plan are going to change a little bit. Just a bit of background information that if you are a FERS employee and you're over age 50 as of the last day of the year, you can contribute an additional amount to the TSP. And how much is that? This year in 2023, it's $7,500. This is in addition to the regular contribution limit of $22,500 for a total of $30,000. Now, as federal employees know, you have two choices regarding which TSP account you want to contribute to. You can contribute to the traditional TSP, that's the pre-tax, the pre-tax one, that's the original one, started in 1987, or you can contribute to the Roth TSP. That Roth TSP, the contributions that you make are made with after-tax dollars, their first tax, and the difference is with the traditional TSP, everything coming out of the traditional TSP is fully taxable. Whereas with the Roth TSP, all the contributions you make, yes, were made with after-tax dollars, but the earnings that you accrue over time when they are withdrawn after age 59 and a half are not going to be taxed. Everything coming out of the Roth TSP is fully non-taxable. And again, you can contribute to both. There's no income restrictions regarding the TSP like there is in terms of contributing to the Roth TSP versus if you wanted to contribute to a Roth IRA. With a Roth IRA,
Sure.
there are income limitations, but no such things with the Roth TSP. All right. So, and federal employees, let's say over age 50, have a choice. They can contribute both, as I say, both to the traditional or to the Roth for the regular contributions as well as the Roth. But starting January 1st, 2024, it's going to change because under Secure Act 2.0, that an employee who has access to a qualified retirement plan, like a 401k plan, the TSP, is not labeled as a qualified retirement plan. It has many of the features of a qualified retirement plan, who are able to make contributions make catch-up contributions starting in 2024, that if an employee's wages exceed a certain amount, then, and they're contributing to their 401k, in this case the TSP, all catch-up contributions have to be made to the Roth account. They cannot make anything to the traditional account. So starting next year, what I'm saying is that if you are a federal employee and you're in federal service during 2024, you're over age 50, and your wages back in 2023, I'll talk about what that wage amount is, exceed a certain amount, you can only contribute to the Roth TSP account for your catch-up contributions. Your other contributions, the regular contributions that you make, can go to the traditional TSP, but it's just the Roth. The catch-up contributions have to be made to the Roth TSP account. Now let's talk about what that wage amount is. For those employees whose Social Security wages, I didn't say taxable wages, I'm talking about Social Security wages, during 2023 exceeded $145,000. That $145,000 will be indexed through the years, go up. But during 2023, if your Social Security wages exceeded $144,000, then during 2024, and you want to make catch-up contributions, you're over 50, those Roth TSP, those contributions that you make to those catch-up contributions have to go to your Roth TSP account. They cannot go to your traditional TSP account.
Gotcha. I'm not going to say this is a huge deal, but it is something for which people need to prepare themselves a little bit. And that is they're going to be paying a little more on their income taxes as a result of this going into Roth versus being pre-tax, right, Ed? Because
that's correct.
It's not going to be taking the annual income down by $7,500. So they could have, $1,900, $2,000, something like that. Probably not going to wreck anybody, but certainly something to be aware of. Okay, so don't be surprised by that. Be sure to share this with folks because Ed, as well as I do, it's not that unusual for a Fed, at least here in the DC metropolitan area, to be above 145,000.
Yeah, a couple things here, Dan. I just want to mention that. I get this question, what do you mean Social Security wages? What are your Social Security wages? What are my Social Security wages? Well, if you look at your W-2 that you get every January, you got a whole bunch of boxes on that W-2. Box 1 are your taxable wages. And box 3 are your Social Security wages. You actually have another box for wages called Medicare wages.
Sure.
And what's the difference here? Well, let's say your gross salary for the year is $150,000. $150,000. That's your gross salary. Okay? And deducted from your gross salary are things off the top, are things like your health insurance premiums, dental and vision insurance premiums that reduce your taxable wages. Well, what about my contributions to the TSP? Does that reduce my taxable wages? Yes, it does. But it does not reduce your Social Security wages. If your gross salary is $150,000, we're starting off at that point. That's your Social Security wages. And let's say you're paying $3,000 for health insurance. Your taxable wages will be reduced down to $147,000. That's for health insurance. What about your Social Security wages? Well, the way the premiums are taken out, that's also taken out before Social Security taxes. But if you put, let's say, $10,000 into the traditional TSP, now your taxable wages already have been reduced down to $147,000. Your taxable wages are going to go down to $137,000. That's your taxable wages. What about your Social Security wages? Nope. Because when you contribute to the traditional TSP, the Social Security tax is being taken out. And people say to me, well, that's not fair. Why can't they just forget about the Social Security tax when I contribute to my contributions to the traditional TSP? You don't want that. Why? They say, why do you want to make sure that your Social Security, that your contributions to the TSP are subject to FICA tax? The reason is that when you get your Social Security benefits, what are your Social Security benefits based on? Your 35 highest years of earnings, Dan. What earnings? Your Social Security earnings, not your taxable earnings. It's your Social Security earnings. You want to squeeze out every dollar you can when it comes to Social Security. And if they didn't take out the Social Security tax, it's going to affect your Social Security benefits. So again, we're looking at this box 3, Social Security wages. That's going to be the determining factor. Next January, when you get your employees get their 2023 W-2, they should look at box 3 of their W-2 statement called Social Security wages. That'll be a determining factor that if the employee's over 50 and they're making contributions to the TSP, for the catch-up contributions, keep in mind that they must go into the Roth-TSP account. They cannot go into the traditional TSP. That's just the catch-up contributions. The other contributions that make as part of the limit, let's say like this year, the limit's $22,500 regular contributions, $7,500 catch-up. So, and let's say they don't change for next year. They probably will, but let's say they don't. So next year, an employee over age 50 can put $22,500 regular and $7,500 of this deduction for salary into the Roth TSP account, okay, and into for catch-up contributions. The $22,500 can go anywhere, Roth or traditional, but the $7,500 must go into the Roth TSP account. You were talking about taxes.
Sure.
I'm in accounting practice, Dan, as you know.
I do
and
know
I
that.
tell my clients, if there's a change in your life when it comes to taxes, I want to be the first to know about it. That is, if you know for a fact next January, you're going to be putting more money into the Roth TSP, let's adjust your withholding from the get-go, from the beginning of the year. Because if you come to my office the following spring to get your taxes done and you owe a whopping amount of money, don't you come complaining to me.
Gotcha. Now, also in your article, you notice that there's another plus side. There's an increase for catch-up contributions for certain ages. Talk to us about those.
Yes, this is another provision of Secure Act 2.0, but Dan, this is not going to take effect until January 1st, 2025. This is the next change. This is another change. And what this change is that if you're in federal service, starting January 1st, 2025, and you are 60 years old, 61 years old, or 62 years old, or 63 years old, you're going to be able to put more money into catch-up. Your catch-up is going to be indexed. You're going to get an additional amount. Now, what is that additional amount? It's going to be the higher of $10,000. Right now it's $7,500. But then it's going to be the higher of $10,000, or, I hate to be too technical here, 150% of whatever the catch-up contribution is in 2024. So if the catch-up contribution limit in 2024, let's say is $7,500. I did a little math here. 150% of $7,500 is $11,250. So that's more than $10,000. So if you're an employee who's 60 61, 62, 63. You got to be in federal service. You have to be in order to contribute to the TSP. And you can put as much as $11,250 into the Roth TSP during 2000 for catch-up contributions, for catch-up in general. But remember, though, that if your Social Security wages are over that certain amount during 2024, all those Roth contributions, all those catch-up contributions have to be made to the Roth TSP account based on what we mentioned before.
Sure. Nah, this is something that if you're not, really what it boils down to, folks, and I'm fine either way. You can spend 40 hours a month making sure that you're on top of everything. Okay, we got a great website for it. You could easily spend 40 hours a month reading up on all this stuff. But if you ever decide you don't want to, there's folks like us who are happy to help you, keep track of that. But you do not want to just go blithely down the garden path hoping for the best, because you will get some surprises that way. All right, Ed, so now this one's really exciting to me. Let's dive into the new rules for our public safety feds. So this is also a change from 2.0, but you identify an act from 1995 actually created some more generous rules for TSP access for special provisions employees. That's another way to refer to this group, correct?
Actually, it's 2015. It was actually 2015.
Oh, 2015. Okay.
2015, about 20 years later. Okay, so let's talk about that original act. Back in 2015, I got the name of the law here. 1 second. Yeah, it was called the Defending Public Safety Employees Retirement Act of 2015. And what that act said was, Dan, that if you are a public service employee, and we're going to talk about specifically who that includes, and you're able to retire. For federal employees, we're talking about law enforcement officers, federal firefighters, air traffic controllers who are under this category of public service employees. They're called specifically special provision employees. And you can retire with a minimum 25 years of service, of such service, at any age.
Sure.
Or you can retire at age 50 with a minimum 20 years of such service, and then retire and get a penalty-free annuity. Your annuity will be based on whatever number of years you had under your particular job category. You're a public service employee, and get the annuity for the rest of your life. Now, the only problem with that is, before 2015, with regard to the traditional TSP.
Sure.
When you're contributing to the traditional TSP as an employee, you're not thinking about when you can take the money out. You're just busy putting the money in, which is important. The only time you get to contribute to the TSP is when you're an employee. You should make every effort to maximize your TSP. But then you get close to retirement and say, I'm getting close to retirement. And I'm thinking about retiring at 55, 57, age 60. Question, and I get this question, when can I start taking the money out of my traditional TSP and not be subject to a 10% early withdrawal penalty? Answer, I'll give you a hint. It's not 59 and a half. It's age 55.
Okay.
If a federal employee retires sometime during or after the year they turn 55, they can make penalty-free, no 10% early withdrawal penalty, withdrawals from their traditional TSP. I emphasize traditional. Roth is different. Roth, you got to be 59 and a half, but the traditional TSP is 55. So, what's the problem here with the special provision employee? We just said a few moments ago that a special provision employee could retire with a minimum 25 years of service at any age.
Maybe 47.
47. They started working when they were 22. Yeah.
Fresh out of college. Sure.
Fresh out of college. Or they could retire at age 50 with a minimum of 20 years of service. they're younger than 55.
Right.
What happened before 2015? Those special provision employees had to wait until 59 and a half to start drawing their TSP in order to avoid a 10% early withdrawal penalty.
Ouch.
Well, this Defending Public Safety Employees Retirement Act of 2015 changed that. And here's what that act said. It said that if you are a public service employee, a special provision employee, a law enforcement officer, air traffic controller, federal firefighter, and you retire at age 50 with a minimum of 20 years of service, you can make penalty-free withdrawals from your traditional TSP. And the special employees were all gung-ho. They were all excited about this. I never forget, I was doing a retirement seminar at the Secret Service. Well, I was so excited. And they were drilling me in, after working for, I got out of the military, I started working at the Secret Service, and now I'm 45 years old. I got 25 years of Secret Service. I'm so excited. I'm going to be able to retire. And now you're saying to me, it's now the year 2016, I can start drawing my traditional TSP without penalty. I said, wait a minute. What age are you going to retire? Oh, I'm going to be 45. You can't do that. Well, what happens because you're not 50? You got to be 50 years old to retire. And then the person said to me, oh, I got an idea. I'll retire, not draw my TSP. I'll wait till 50. Not going to work. Not going to work because you have to actually retire at age 50 or older. You're retiring before age 50. That was the Defending Public Safety Act of 2015.
Sure.
Secure Act 2.0 changed that, Dan. It said, if you retire with a minimum 25 years of a public service employee, at any age, you can start drawing your qualified retirement plan, including the TSP, and not be subject to a 10% early withdrawal fee. You don't have to retire at 50 or older. So
that is just a huge benefit.
Huge benefit. And when did it take effect? As of January the 1st, 2023. Right now, it applies.
Yep.
Big change there.
That's a big win for a special and hardworking group of people. That we're talking about folks that are many times going into harm's way, or also making sure that our airplanes don't smack into each other while we're up there, which is a skill I greatly prize. I like landing in the same plane that I went up in. So I think that is just great. Any twists or turns in eligibility that we need to consider?
Yeah, like I was mentioning that it applies to public service employees. For federal employees, they come in the category of special provision employees. Include law enforcement officers, federal firefighters, air traffic controllers, customs and border protection officers.
Sure.
Think about our borders here, what these poor people are going through in terms of.
Absolutely.
Believe me, it won't be that uncommon for somebody with 25 years of such service. They want to get out as soon as possible, long before age 50. So the flexion. Well, as a federal employee, everybody has what's called a job classification, and there's a code that shows up on your form SF50. You know what type of employee you are by looking at your SF50 box number 30. Now, we point this out, by the way, during our retirement webinars. It's one of the things we go through because everybody has to make sure they got the right code. Well, for the purposes here, we're talking about 4 job categories here that these employees should know what the code is to make sure that they're eligible for the special take advantage of this new law. So if you are a law enforcement officer or firefighter, I suggest that you go to your most recent SF50, the box number 30. Now, to make it a little more complicated, I hate to do this, these codes will depend on when you were hired as a FERS employee. We're talking strictly here as FERS employees, obviously, depending on when you were hired. If you were hired in your particular job before January 1st, 2013, you're under the regular FERS retirement. And if you're
Gotcha.
a law enforcement officer or a firefighter, you have the code M. M as in Michael. M. If you're an air traffic controller, you have the code L as in Lonnie.
Okay.
If you're a custom border and protection officer, you have the code O. O is an Oriole. Okay. It's going to be in your box, in your SF50 box number 30. Now, if you're hired in your particular occupation during the year 2013, the same codes apply, except there's going to be an R. Why R? Because you're going to call it a FERS Ray employee, FERS Revised New Employee. You're hired during the year 2013. Law enforcement officer and firefighter, the code is MR. MR. Air traffic controller,
Gotcha.
LR. Custom borders and protection officer, OR. And finally,
Okay.
if you are a special forces employee hired anytime after December 31st, 2013, you're going to have the letter F added to the original code. So law enforcement and firefighter, MF. Air traffic controller, LF. Custom border and protection officer, OF. So that's your category. Now, Dan, and I always say this, you got to be very careful here, because it's the responsibility of the agency that you work for to let TSP know you have that you're in such a category. Because when it comes time to taking money out of your TSP, your traditional TSP, the TSP has to know that you have the right so-called employment code. Okay, and the agency actually furnishes this information to the TSP that you have the right employment code. Otherwise, the TSP has no idea what your occupation is. All they know is you're applying to take money out of your TSP. So
Sure.
if they don't have the right information, and let's say you're retired and you're taking money out of your TSP, you're, let's say, 47 years old, they're going to say it's an early withdrawal, subject to an early withdrawal penalty. So
Right.
you have to make sure that the right information is being furnished to the TSP by your agency, that you have the right code. So it's very important that you check your code. You check your code on your SF50 box number 30 as soon as possible, because you have the wrong code, you got to get it corrected.
Gotcha. And so, Ed, after you've done a withdrawal, you're gonna need to report. So what happens there?
Okay. All right. So in general, when an annuitant takes money out of their traditional TSP, the following January, the TSP sends what's called a 1099-R, reporting your distribution. You took money out of your traditional TSP account. There are many boxes on the 1099-R, but the most important boxes are what you took out, the gross distribution. Then there is the taxable distribution, tells how much of your distribution is actually taxable. But another box tells you the type of distribution. Was it a regular distribution? Normal distribution? That's not subject to any early withdrawal penalty. You have to have the right code in there, so that if TSP did not get the right information from the agency, that you have the right employment code, then they're going to put a code 1 in box number 7. That's an early withdrawal penalty.
Gotcha.
And what's going to happen? What's going to happen if your agency, the TSP, you didn't get the TSP didn't get the right information from the agency, and you were subject to an early withdrawal penalty? Well, all hope. There's hope.
All is not
in
lost.
my article that I wrote about this, and it's up in the Fed Zone. It talks about, I call it damage control. You can avoid paying the 10% early withdrawal penalty by filing, and I have all the information in the article, by filing IRS form 5329 with your taxes. It's right there. It's right there.
There you go, folks.
There it is. And it explains what you need to do to avoid paying an early withdrawal penalty. It can be done. But if you're going to do this again, I would suggest that you contact your agency to get in touch with TSP for them to get the right information about your code.
Sure. Because look, we're not here to defend, we're not here to bash, but Ed, you've encountered some things in your tax practice where information wasn't the way it should have been, correct?
Exactly.
So this is a be your own advocate moment, folks. If you're working without a net, if you don't have an advisor, that's fine. We're not saying you have to have one. But you do need to know what you need to know so that then you can tackle this if something does not work the way it's supposed to. Okay? Because biggest thing for Ed and I, we want to make sure that none of our feds loses out on what they're supposed to get. Because when you make the decision to serve the public trust, you are making a commitment, you're making sacrifices. And I've said through my whole career, those of you who listened to me for a long time know this, I believe federal service is back-end loaded. Okay, so sometimes there are sacrifices you make along the way, and then you reach a point where you have a pension, you have the health care, you have all those things. We want to make sure you get all of them. Correct, Ed?
That's correct. I can't agree more with you, Dan. I'll get one other example about this. I point this out in the column, that if a special provision employee retires, with 25 years of service at any age 50 with a minimum 20 years of service, and they have both a traditional TSP account and a Roth TSP account, this avoidance of a 10% of the withdrawal penalty only applies to the traditional TSP because it does not apply to the Roth TSP. You have to be 59 and a half to take money out of your Roth TSP and not have to pay tax on the earnings as well as the 10% on the withdrawal penalty. So if you have both accounts, when you apply to take money out of your TSP, you have to be very specific. You have to tell the TSP that you only want money coming out of your traditional TSP account, not the Roth TSP account. If you are eligible to take it out at any age because you're a special provision employee because you have 25 years of service, or you retired at age 50 with a minimum 20 years of service, you've got to be very specific to them. I only want the withdrawal to come from the money coming out of my traditional TSP account. Leave my Roth TSP account alone. Otherwise, if you don't specify, the TSP is going to take it out pro rata according to your account balance. And here, you didn't specify, the traditional TSP will not be subject to a 10% or withdrawal penalty, but the Roth TSP earnings is going to be subject to a 10% withdrawal, and you're going to have to pay tax, by the way, on the earnings. That is bad.
That's a lousy surprise to have, and we don't want anybody to get hit with that. Well, Brother Ed, you've done it again. You've pulled up a lot of stuff the feds need to know about, but probably wouldn't have found on their own. They might have, okay, but they might not have. So what we're trying to do is be an improvement over those water cooler conversations where you hear from somebody and you think it's right, then it turns out maybe it was a little bit off. We're going to try and get you the stuff that is right and it's timely for you. So once again, Ed, I don't know how you do it, but I'm glad you do it. And thank you for what you do for the feds. Thank you for what you do for us, raising our level. You're a national treasure, my friend. Well, folks, that is a wrap. We will see you at our next podcast. And as you see now, you can see us for better or for worse. Want to do a quick shout out to Ben and Caitlin, who are in our producers' chairs. Thank you all for getting us through this. We are Serving Those Who Serve. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on our YouTube channel and Spotify. Please remember to share it with your friends and strangers. Check us out on Twitter and LinkedIn. And do not forget, do not forget those live webinars every week. Go to the SWS website. That's swserve.com. You'll see the button up at the top. Click it. You will get the whole menu. There's a ton. And quick plug here. Since we were talking about special provisions, we have a special provisions webinar coming up later this month. So do not miss that. And we've got another one coming in the fall. The guru will come to you, reach you where you are, teach you where you are, serve you where you are. As I like to say, you can learn in your bunny slippers. and we'll be there. Sign up for one, sign up for all, and share the page with your friends. They will thank you. So, wrapping it up for Ed, the crew serving those who serve, and me, Dan Sipe, I will close as I always do by saying this. Good luck, Godspeed, and above all, remember, it's your FedLife, so please make it a great one because you deserve it. Stay well, everybody. We are out.